So 1 year of teaching, which is amazing. Dream job. I still every day pinch myself that I get to do this. I dreamed my whole life of being able to be a harp teacher, and now I get to do that. The quickest way to get where you want to be is to go slowly. And it's so easy to think in everything that you're doing that you're never going to get there because you're going slowly, but you're just taking that next step. But if you do that, before you know it, you look back and you've learned that piece, or you've mastered that skill, or you've achieved that goal that you set before you, because you were prepared to just take that next step, one after the other, and trust the process that you would get there. So yeah, the quickest way to get where you want to go is to go slowly.
Every learner, like when it really gets down to it, is different. And they've all got a different combination of strengths and struggles and fears and joys and ambitions. And you can't have a one size fits all. I think that's my biggest thing after 20 years of teaching. Welcome to the How to Harp podcast, where your harp and your journey are always front and centre. I'm Heather Downie, Harpist and founder of How to Harp, your online space for expert guidance and endless inspiration. Each week, we are here to empower, inspire and encourage you, whether you're just beginning or many years into your harp adventure. From chats with world-class professionals to real stories from everyday harpists, to practical tips you can use right away. This podcast is all about helping you feel happy, confident, and fulfilled with your harp. This is the second episode of the How to Harp podcast and our very first Harpy Tutor chat. Once a month, Angela and I will sit down for a relaxed catch-up about all things harpy. Teaching, learning, performing, and everything in between. In this episode, we're celebrating Angela's first year teaching with us at How to Harp, and what a year it's been. We're sharing the joys and challenges of teaching, why every harpist's learning path is unique, and how a little bit of nerves can actually make you a better teacher. There's plenty of encouragement for learners too, plus a little tale of poached eggs that turned out to be surprisingly relevant. Let's get started. So welcome everyone to myself and Angela's little informal chat. Of course, Angela and I are the harp tutors in How to Harp, and it's really nice for us to take this little opportunity to sit down and have a little chin wag. So, how are you doing, Angela?
Hi Heather, it's great to be with you. I'm so excited about this conversation. We could chat all the time, and so it's just wonderful to be able to share that with our listeners as well today. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm going to let you know I've already had a strop today.
Dear.
Yeah, there was an official poached eggs drop this morning. So as well as enjoying harping, I also enjoy a good poached egg in the morning. I went to my Pilates class, so good, 6 a.m, walked the dogs in the crazy storm, and then I was like, I'm so set up for these poached egg. But as William knows, I'm very particular about my poached. It can't be overdone. If it's overdone, it's ruined. And so I popped my poached egg on, right? It's devastating. And I didn't want to overdo it. My toast was ready and I got my scoop and I scooped the poached egg out. And just as I was scooping it, I scooped it too soon and it burst in the bottom and all the yolk started running into the pot. And I was like, no, I can't believe it. And I had two. So I was like, right, I'll be really, really careful with the second one. Same thing happened.
So are you anti-poached egg now, or have you managed to rectify it?
What I did was, this is how serious I am about my poached eggs. I put the I put them on my toast and I said, just get on with it. And then I was like, no, I can't do this. So I put the burst poached eggs in the dog's bowl and I started again. So I got 2 really good poached eggs and toast, half an avocado. I'm feeling good now, but that was a proper strop for a little while.
I think this is just normal adulting life, isn't it? That stuff happens and, we need to start again. And that actually fits very well with what we're going to be talking about today as well, where, we are constantly having to overcome challenges that are very big challenges to us at that point and help others to do the same. And we bring our daily experiences to us as we are living out our harping lives.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we're celebrating a big milestone today, aren't we?
Yeah, I'm really excited. I can't believe that it's been 1 year since I started with How to Harp.
Yeah.
So 1 year of teaching, which is amazing. Dream job. I still every day pinch myself that I get to do this. I dreamed my whole life of being able to be a harp teacher, and now I get to do that. So it's a real privilege, and it really is something that I'm celebrating. I hope all our listeners, and I hope you as well, Heather, we just get to be able to enjoy and celebrate this because it's just wonderful.
Yeah, it's great. And I'm definitely going to share some of the things that have changed for me in the last year, having someone who is another harp teacher working with us. But before I do that, I think it would be really great for you to talk a little bit about getting here, because we spoke a little bit about you working with How to Harp before you came into the team. And there was a few things that were really important to us about certain qualifications that you got and things like this. And both of us have those kind of strong opinions about ensuring that we are giving quality to our students. So can you talk a little bit about that journey for us, about getting to the point where you could come and join the How to Harp team?
Yeah, so I've always wanted to be a teacher, and I did pursue a degree in mathematics. And so I came a teaching degree in mathematics. So I came to teaching from the perspective of a teacher. And it was really important to me, I guess, seeing in the context of other areas like in math, sometimes there were amazing mathematicians who just could not teach as I was growing up. And so I saw as a child the importance of knowing how to impart that information and how to be able to teach well, being really critical. So it was really important for me that before I started teaching the harp, I was well qualified to do that. I felt competent at the instruments and also knew how to handle the pedagogy and the approach to how I would teach, and felt confident in terms of my ability to explain, not just in terms of the qualification, though that was also really important, but also my own philosophy of teaching, all those sort of things. So while I had, over the years, had quite a few people ask me if I would help them with, beginner lessons or things like that, I was very reluctant to do that, even though that was my dream, until I had completed my harp qualifications as well. And so I felt really confident at the instruments. And also, I think helping out in How to Harp, as a pod leader, I got to see you teach for 2 years. And I've gained a lot of information from that, and just an approach to teaching, seeing how people reacted, that helped me develop my own philosophy and my own approach to how I would want to teach and settle that. So those kind of things needed to come together before I was ready to kind of step into taking that responsibility to take on one-to-one students and to be a tutor in How to Harp.
Yeah, and we're so glad that you did it. So it was just about 1 year ago. You said, we think it was the 23rd of August, right, that you actually joined the team, and then you started teaching the first week of September.
Yeah, exactly. Goes so quickly, doesn't it?
It feels like just yesterday. Honestly, it really does. It's just amazing that it's actually all happened. So before Angela joined the team, everybody, I was, to be fair, I wasn't really floating in the ether by myself, because we had, like Angela just mentioned, she was a pod leader first, and our pod leaders, we call them the sweet peas. Angela's been very prepared. She's got a little sweet pea necklace on today. All of the sweet peas have got a sweet pea necklace. And so the sweet peas led smaller learning pods in How to Harp, and I would ask questions to the sweet peas, but never kind of like, what do you think about this fingering, or do you think that this beginner piece is really at a beginner level, or how shall we develop the learner pathways? And that's been the biggest change for me. Angela and I meet once a month now, although we say we meet once a month, but it actually ends up generally being once a week. And we talk about what everybody in the membership needs, what repertoire we should be looking at, what warm-ups we should be looking at, what guest artists we should invite, and just having someone else to chat to about these things and also get excited about these things with me has been just an absolute gift. So I'm so glad that you did decide to come and join us. I think my favourite thing is actually getting excited about stuff with you. That's the best thing about having you on the team. What's your favourite thing?
Yeah, it's so nice to have another person who likes to geek out of the teacher side of things, because not everyone can do that. So I really enjoy that aspect. I think for me, having the, teaching can be, if I was to just go off and start my own studio privately, it can be a very lonely thing. And so having a colleague, in a sense, that we get to work together and we get to play to each other's strengths as well. And I get to benefit from your wisdom of teaching, because you've had a lot more experience teaching harp. And so you bring aspects that I'm not aware of, or that I can learn, or I can say, oh, have you done this before? And you're able to give advice on that. I found that really, really, I still can't believe that I get to do that, really. Because you come from a completely different perspective. Do you want to tell us a bit about your perspective from approach coming from 20 years or plus, or however long it is that you've been teaching, I'm guessing, teaching harp compared to, me just teaching 1 year.
Yeah, it is different. You've been teaching 1 year the harp, but of course teaching for a long time, and in a different setting as well, because teaching in that real formal education setting, I mean, I do teach at the Conservatoire, but even there we get quite a lot of freedom, really, in our curriculum choices, which is a real luxury. But 20... How long have I been teaching for? This is going to be a disgusting figure to work out, actually. I think it probably will have been about... I don't know when my first lesson I took ever was, but I think it will have been about 20 years, maybe 19 years ago, that I would have started harp teaching. That's a bit scary, but it's also quite cool. I think that, like you, it was really important to me. Like, I obviously came to it from a different angle because I studied harp first and became a harp performer. Although teaching was always my big passion, I worked that out like very quickly before I even graduated. But I still pursued a career in performing and did a lot of traveling and sharing of music. And then just recently I was like, no, I really feel like I need to get a teaching qualification. And I completed my master's, and that was really, really useful and beneficial to me. But 20 years in harping. I don't know. Are you asking me what have I learned? The funny thing about do you know what I think the biggest thing that I think is true about 20 years of harping? And I think this is interesting because we run an online harp school, and it might be interesting for us to talk about how we try and provide this service. But I think the biggest thing that I've learned is that every learner is different. And, we talk about, of course, there's, learning paths, and of course there's general teaching approaches that you can use, and there is general things, and there's general things that in harping often people are going to struggle with. Like you'd say 80% of people find stretching for a 1-5-10 quite difficult, or 80% of people, it's quite easy to say these kind of things, but actually every learner, like when it really gets down to it, is different. And they've all got a different combination of strengths and struggles and fears and joys and ambitions. And you can't have a one-size-fits-all. I think that's my biggest thing after 20 years of teaching. What do you think? What do you feel you've learned after a year? Because you probably already knew that because you were a teacher.
Yeah, I've taught for over 20 years in total as a teacher. Yeah. Around 20 years in a school setting as a high school teacher. But I think the thing that I love about teaching is that when someone comes to you with their unique challenges or things that they think are the problem with their playing, which aren't necessarily, they might think, this thing is not working, but it's actually a different thinker that's affecting that. And their unique goals that they can't maybe even articulate. And you are able to kind of see the road ahead that they need to go to get where they don't even know that they want to go yet. Mm-hmm. and come alongside them and lead them. That for me has always been like the greatest privilege, is that ability to kind of say, right, I can tell what you need to do to get from here to here. And now I've just got to work with you to help you take that journey and believe you can take it, and empower you to take one step at a time and not get discouraged because you're only 3 steps in and there's another 10 steps to go, which is often the case with adult learners who, want to learn quicker. That's that opportunity to tailor that learning for that person. And even if 2 people are learning the exact same thing, what it takes to motivate them and to encourage them and what they want to get out of that will be different. So your whole approach has to be different for that person. So what you're saying about that individual approach to learning, and yet the overarching philosophy of making sure they're developing the skills and the foundations and the approach and the joy in playing that'll carry them further as lifelong musicians, lifelong harpists, is the same overall for everyone, but how we get there is very different. And that's exciting. I love that challenge. I really love coming alongside and kind of saying, take this next step, and then sort of holding your breath and seeing where they'll be and seeing, oh, they took that step and they took the next 2 after that as well. When you get to see them again in a follow-up lesson, that for me is the greatest. It's kind of to journey alongside. I just get a high from that.
Wow,
I love
that's
it.
Lovely. That's lovely. And, because we're talking about, we're really talking in this podcast, aren't we, about the fact you've been teaching harp for a year alongside I've been teaching harp for 20 years. But here's an interesting observation that I make. And William, who is here, but he might not chime in, but he's here in the background, as always, who's, by the way, our 3rd harp tutor in House Harp. He kind of supports me a lot in this, but I'm interested if you get, I've never asked you this before, so I'm interested, because sometimes I will have a one-to-one with someone, or even a power hour. So for those who don't know, power hours, we meet once a month, people get to come and ask their questions. And when I'm in a power hour, I actually feel like I'm almost, well, what you would talk about in like the theory of teaching is you'd say I was in flow state, but I get into this mode and I feel totally energized and I'm like, pow, 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 pow. And the questions start flying and I just love it. The energy, I totally feed off it. But sometimes before the power hour, I get really nervous and I say to William, what if someone asks me something I don't know? And I've been teaching for 20 years and I still have this. And I have it more so, don't I, William, if someone books a one-to-one who maybe I haven't worked with one-to-one yet, or I don't know them really, really well from the membership, like they've maybe not come to lots of sessions, and they book a one-off one-to-one. And I'm excited to work with a person, but I'm also a bit like, oh, William, what if I can't help this person? And I've never not been able to help someone. I've never been in that situation. I have been in a situation where I couldn't answer the question. And I just say, oh, that's a great question. I don't know the answer to that. And that's actually really exciting. And I'll go away and research it. But the nerves are still there. So do you experience that? Do you have that?
Yeah, it's interesting we haven't discussed that. But yeah, you could have been talking about me. And I had this my entire teaching career. I used to get really worried about it. In high school teaching, we used to joke about it in the staff room as like the teacher nightmare the night before teaching. So after the summer holidays, we'd all have forgotten that we could teach and just felt like, where was the skill? Do I even know how to talk to anyone? Do I even know how to add any more? Do I even know my subject? And you would literally wake up in the middle of the night with these nightmares of crazy things, like standing in front of a room full of people and not knowing what to say, or and that happened my entire teaching career. And exactly what you said, I actually taught a one-to-one lesson this morning.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a student I hadn't taught before. And I had the exact same thing, half an hour before the lesson, I went and got myself a cup of coffee and sort of calmed down and said, you've done this many times, you will know what to do. And I have to kind of remind myself that I will know and I have prepared. And I tend to completely over-prepare the lesson.
Yeah.
Just because I think if they ask this, I want to make sure I know that. Or if they need this, maybe I could do that. Because I'm kind of, doubting myself in a sense. And then the lesson happens and I'm like, oh, I could do another 20 after that. that was fantastic. I'm on such a high from teaching. And exactly like you say, it's like that instinctive, all that work you've done with training. And I think just part of who you are as a teacher, I think there's an instinctive element of it, just kicks in. But you don't presume that it's going to be there, and you forget that it's there before, and you get a little bit like, what if one day that doesn't kick in? What am I going to do?
Yeah.
And then usually, maybe experience or these things will, but I haven't ever had that happen. I've always found that when I'm actually teaching, it just feels so natural in the moment. But before, I always feel like it won't.
Yeah.
So I completely relate to that. And I kind of settled that that's just never going to go away, because I've always had that.
So just to let everyone know, if you are watching visually here, we are in the middle of a storm in Scotland. I think it's called Storm Florence. It begins with an F. Florence or something like that. So if the visual's a little bit funny, we're just getting back into it, but we're going to edit it together, so I'm sure it'll be fine. But we were just talking about nerves before teaching, and I was going to say I wonder if you lost that, if maybe your teaching wouldn't be as good. So like if you're going to perform and you get a little bit nervous, like I feel like that kind of makes the emotion more, it makes me play with more, I don't know, intensity in a way. And if I lost the nerves before I perform, I'm not sure I would perform in the same way. And maybe it's the same for teaching. What do you think?
I think there's something to be said for that adrenaline that you get, that's, you realize that's an excitement. And this is something that you do want. This is something that that actually matters to you. Because if you had that sense of, I don't know if I can do this, and it was enough to make you stop doing that, that would show you this isn't something that's important. But the fact that, this is a little bit scary, I'm a little unsure, but I kind of helps me get in touch with the fact that it's something I really want to do and want to be able to do. And so it helps to connect me to that why, and that this is something that matters. And I think that brings me with a completely different attitude to my teaching, because I'm coming from a place of really wanting to be there and wanting to help and wanting to make a difference, rather than this is just something that's easy that I do and that's not that important, and with a bit more of a blasé attitude. So I think it does help, though it might not feel very nice just before, but I think it's kind of a normal part of just caring about something.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to finish off this little discussion with a wee story. I've talked about Mary McCarthy before many times. She's a teacher of mine from the Conservatoire. She actually was my piano teacher at the Conservatoire, but she was so inspirational. She was really important in my kind of teaching journey. And she used to come and teach at the Conservatoire. And I mean for 6 or 7 hours, like a long day teaching at the university. And then she would say to me, now I have to go to the gym to work off all the energy that I've raised teaching you all and being excited. And I just think that's so, don't get me wrong, I do not go to the gym after I've been teaching, but I totally get what she's saying.
Yeah, there's a high that comes from it, and it does, when you're doing what you love, it energizes you. I think that's always true. And that's why I'm so excited that I get to celebrate this 1 year of doing my dream job, doing what I love to do, because that fills me with that excitement and that joy. That doesn't quite make me go to gym, maybe Pilates like you do, but it does get me excited. And so, I'm very grateful for the opportunity, and so grateful everyone's been here to celebrate with me.
Yeah, amazing. And maybe we can wrap the podcast up this week by thinking about how we can take maybe what you've learned in the last year, what can we give our listeners as a takeaway? They're all learners. Maybe some of you out there are hoping to become a teacher. I don't know. But is there a takeaway that you think, reflecting on the last year, that you could give to our harpists out there?
Yeah, I think I'd want to say something like, the quickest way to get where you want to be is to go slowly. And it's so easy to think in everything that you're doing that you're never going to get there because you're going slowly, but you're just taking that next step. But if you do that, before you know it, you look back and you've learned that piece, or you've mastered that skill, or you've achieved that goal that you set before you, because you were prepared to just take that next step one after the other and trust the process that you would get there. So yeah, the quickest way to get where you want to go is to go slowly.
That's an amazing takeaway. Here's my little takeaway from today. It's kind of similar. Never take the poached egg out too late. Never take the poached egg out too early. Only when it's just right. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks Angela for the chat.
Yeah, lovely to speak to you today.
It was so lovely to sit down with Angela for our very first Harpy Tutor chat. I'm really looking forward to doing this every month. It's such a joy having Angela on the How to Harp team, and I absolutely love working with her. This episode was a lot of fun to record, so Angela, thank you so much for being your brilliant self. Next week is episode 3, and this marks the start of our brand new feature on the podcast, our monthly interview with a learner harpist. I'll be joined by Victoria, who you might know from the Talking Harps YouTube channel, which she hosts with Angela. She's an inspiring learner harpist with a great story, and we'll be chatting all about her harp journey, what brought her to the harp, and what keeps her inspired.